hello once again. I hope you're always excited as I am because I'm preparing 20,000 videos at the same time. Today, we're going to discuss one of the most interesting ideas, but let's start at the beginning, the starter Pokémon. As you may know, I like to theorize in my channel about new starter Pokémon that should exist, or new forms that could be given to such special creatures that will accompany us from the beginning of our adventure. But the fact of this unexpected release of another Legends game makes us aware of some patterns they may be following when choosing new starter Pokémon for this next Pokémon game. To focus on which starter Pokémon will appear in this new game in the Pokémon Legends franchise, we need to follow the same patterns that were established for Legends Arceus. Obviously, in this region, we were in ancient history, which we all know today as Sinnoh. As you may know, the original Pokémon of Sinnoh were Chimchar, Piplup and Torchic, which were available in the wild in that region, but were not the original Pokémon in this game. They were replaced by Osamot, Cyndaquil and gotta roll it, yes sir! But I have to tell you that I think the logical pattern for choosing the Pokémon that will appear in this new Legends game set in Kalos has already been decided, and the Pokémon Company has given us enough clues to know what they will be. And following the same pattern we saw in Legends Arceus, we should obviously rule out the starters from Kalos, although I'd be willing to bet that a new form or Mega Evolution will be added to them. Obviously, we would also discard the Legends Arceus starters, leaving us with a very interesting list of starters that we will try to unify to see how logical they might be in those games. And if we're going to be strict, I doubt very much that we're going to repeat the starter Pokémon of the last generation, so personally I don't know if you agree that I will remove Recoco, Sprigatito and Quaxly from this list. I have tried several different combinations of starters, such as Grookey with Litten with fire and Totodile with water. Personally, I think these are three great starters that will work well in the future if not for this game. Another possible variation will be to have Scorbunny as the fire starter, Boblio as the water starter, and Chikorita, understanding that this trio of starters are probably the ones that got the most hate from the fans. Although, we can finally have a Madame Meganium, if you know what I mean. Joking aside, I feel like even though they're Pokémon I like, they don't complement each other that well for starters. However, if we look at one of the frames that Pokémon gave us with the starter Pokémon, we can find a trio of starters Pokémon already composed of Squirtle, Treecko, and Tedpie. As you can see in this picture, it will be great, but it will lose the point since Squirtle and Treecko already have a Mega Evolution. Though wait a second, in this generation, it is clear that the return of Mega Evolution will be a very important fact, where I would even dare to say that we will see many new species taking advantage of the return of this mechanic. Therefore, if we take out the Pokémon that already have a Mega Evolution, such as the first generation starters and even the third generation starters, the candidates will not make much sense. So, at this point in the video, and I think knowing the answer to this question, we need to be clear. All you have to do is go back to one of the trailers for the Pokémon Scarlet and Pokémon Violet DLCs. Games that, as you will see in future videos on this channel, are very connected to little hints and details of everything that will happen in Pokémon Legends ZA. I discovered this trend where we could find exactly each of history starter Pokémon accompanied by another starter Pokémon that, when seen together, could perfectly complement each other in terms of types to form the future trio of starter Pokémon. The possibility of having Piplup, Snivy and Torchic might be one of the best decisions in terms of starter Pokémon for these games. Piplup's own evolutionary line, calling from the first generation, will be based on a descendant of their Imperator, Pinwing. After reaching its final evolutionary stage in Empoleon, will be influenced by the god of the sea and Greek mythology. In addition to the French military and political figure Napoleon Bonaparte, it will be a perfect match for the Kalos region, with which it would share a nationality and which could certainly give it a new form, as it did with the final stages of the starter in Pokémon Legends Arceus. Do you think they will even dare to make more references to the figure as famous as Napoleon? Going back to the references in the trailers, if we look again at Rowlet, one of the best Pokémon in history, and also his starter Pokémon, he appears in this trailer accompanied by Smithy, which will obviously have a lot to do with friends as well. This line of evolution will see the development of a basal serpent that will eventually evolve into Serperior, with that very serpent-based being complemented by the flower of Lys, a symbolism that has been very important in France since the Middle Ages. Moreover, Serperior would already appear in Kalos, not as a starter Pokémon, don't get me wrong, but as you can see in this picture, it will be one of the emblematic Pokémon used to decorate this castle, which could be a clear reference to the Palace of Versailles, very much in relation to a mythical European knight, Lady Oscar de la Rose de Versailles, with whom all of these will have a perfect combination in terms of references. So, as I said, there are other candidates for a possible fire Pokémon to start with, since I will break my plans with that correlation with people that we commented on before. The multi-caned Apremate with its brutal strength, I think we would agree is a far cry from French culture. The clear evidence that Snidey could be one of these starters will rule out the option of Pipic, as his design shows will be inspired by Thank Fei, based on a popular Chinese novel and totally related to that country. My two final candidates for the fire starter throw will be Scorbunny or Torchic. Familiar with the Radif Pokémon, it is true that many of you will relativize it based solely on its proximity to soccer or other sports. While Phrase may be popular for hosting various events or great successes in various disciplines, the following historical facts about rabbits and friends seems hilarious to me. If Empoleon is based on Napoleon, what better rival than his worst enemy, the rabbits? And the fact is that in France at that time, the ruler became very popular that after a great success of Napoleon, he went to celebrate it by facing 3,000 rabbits. The thing is that when they released the rabbits and Napoleon's army shot them for fun, the rabbits, instead of fleeing, went to attack Napoleon's troop, which is a very good historical anecdote. I don't know if this information will be useful for Scorbunny as a starter, but I personally loved it. And if it doesn't, then we'll have to stick with Gothic, which, well, will be pretty much destroying the theories I mentioned at the beginning, since Blaziken will have had a Mega evolution beforehand. And of course, when must the Pokémon Company force to give two different forms to the same Pokémon? It's not like Charizard had two forms or anything. This will be the only case that doesn't quite fit for me, but in terms of logic in the Pokemon world and in relation to French culture, Blaziken will be a fighting rooster. It has a lot to do with the French plot, being a phonetic reference to the old name that this place will get, and at the same time the rooster in French symbolizes light and faith. So do not be surprised to see a new Mega evolution or form, perhaps endowed with a fairy or electric type. I'd love to hear your thoughts on which starters should be in this game. Leave the comments in the comment box below and smash the like button. I really appreciate your support. See you in the next video about the Pokemon world.